A few months ago, I had a video idea. I find picking shadow colors hard sometimes. Other artists out there might struggle with the same problem, so I thought, could I essentially pre-think every shadow and light color in my painting by making a fully rendered ball for each material that I needed to paint? I could make a simple tutorial about light and shadow colors, paint a demo, make a video, and try to have a great time. First thing I did was not that. I ended up writing 2 whole scripts before even filming anything. At the end of the first day, I had a long list of topics to cover and an even longer list of visuals that I needed to make. Honestly, this was my first mistake. I didn't take into account that the footage I would even end up with might not even fit with what I had written and listed down. So here's my first bit of advice. If the goal of your video revolves around making an argument or talking about an existing story, writing out your script like an essay can be a good way to start. You can find your B-roll and visuals after. But the goal of my video was to try and experiment and then share what I learned along the way. Because I had no direction, I thought planning the video out beat by beat on paper gave me some sense of control. In hindsight, having the experience first, recording the footage, and then just commentating and editing into something interesting would have saved me a lot of effort and time. The initial idea came from me just playing around with a color picker while painting and finding something interesting. I found that if I ran the color picker across some forms, the colors made a kind of curve. As far as I knew, the most saturated part, that's the part with the most intense color in any lit object, is in the midtones. That's the colors in the transition between the shadow and the brightest lit areas. The 2 ends of the curve are desaturated, as either the color of the white light started flooding the local color out, or the darkness of the shadow made the colors harder to see. Note that the colors of light matter, as if the main light were a slight bit warmer, cooler, or colored a certain way, that would shift the lit side's color depending on the strength. This applies to the shadow side too, being affected mainly by the color of the ambient light, and any other weaker light source like bounce light or other secondary lights. In short, if you want to find the color of your lit side, you should take your local color, raise the value, lower the saturation, and then shift the hue towards the light color. To find the color of your shadow side, barring bounce light and other secondary light sources, you take your local color, lower the value, lower the saturation, and then shift the hue a bit towards the color of the ambient light. Checking to make sure your midtones are saturated for that smooth curve. Some side tips: I've heard of making the value of your shadows halfway to black from the value of your lit side, but that system was derived from afternoon sunlight, so if you're going to use a different ratio as a guide, try to at least make it consistent across your other materials. Another useful tool is the hue saturation luminosity slider. You can use it to fudge your colors if you're on digital. In Clip Studio Paint, it's Ctrl-U. Very helpful for adjusting on the fly if you're still learning about color picking. I also use it a lot. It does feel like a little bit of cheating, but do still try to build an intuitive sense of color when you feel like working on it. So this is where things start to go wrong. I ended up writing and recording that tutorial section 3 times before I figured out how to even properly render a simple ball in color. I had to scrap my initial plan for the video and decided to just make one about sharing my mistakes instead, because I couldn't get the whole colored balls idea to work the first time. I guess I just assumed that I could do it without looking up a guide or a reference because it seemed like a simple exercise. And I'm being honest, it's harder than it looks if you don't know the parts of it. I even tried cheating with Blender, but ended up finding weird color interactions that I couldn't explain, making me doubt the whole tutorial that I was making even more. In the end, I did find a good reference detailing the value differences of each part of the ball from Pinterest, but I couldn't really find the original source to credit this image, so if any of you know, feel free to just leave it in the comments, I guess. I'll try to leave a link for it down in the description too, but I'm not sure if YouTube lets small channels leave links yet, so I would say that I wish I went and studied that before I insisted on pushing through with the painting, but honestly, I barely stuck with the colors that I had picked out anyway. It was a good start, but throughout the process, I just ended up having to rely on my own intuition that I'd built up from studying and painting for a while. Honestly, I thought the ball idea would be some kind of clever shortcut, but I realized that in most paintings, you'll encounter unique problems that you'll have to figure out how to solve on the fly. Turns out maybe nothing beats just studying and having past experiences to draw from. If you know who this character is, then you'll have a good idea of how long this video took me to finish. I just kept running into problems, not just in the tutorial part, but also in the drawing part, and even in the editing part. I still don't know if I should have just powered through it for the upload, even if I felt like I was hating the process. I still think that go next kind of mindset is a positive one for gaining a lot of experience really fast, but I started this project with the goal of finding a process that I could sustain. Maybe this is cope, but I'd like to think that most of the experience is in the learning and not in just pumping stuff out because you feel like you have to. If this is what it took for me to improve while finding a process that I could enjoy and be motivated to do, then I guess all that wasted effort might have been the mileage all along. Some of my inspirations for making a channel are TPPO, Deviantart, and recently Kevin, and from them I got the idea of making a visual format and some reusable assets. Getting these set up will make the process easier in the long run, taking the weight off of the hard part, which is coming up with and executing the actual ideas. I want to try making a few videos for the long haul, so I hope you check this place out every once in a while. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching and hearing me out, and have a good one.